Malcolm X was born Malcolm Little on May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska. He was the fourth of 8 children in a family deeply affected by racial discrimination and violence. His father, Earl Little, was a Baptist minister and an outspoken supporter of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, advocating black self-reliance and pride. Earl faced constant threats from white supremacist groups, and the family's home was burned down when Malcolm was a child. His father's suspicious death when Malcolm was 6 and his mother's eventual institutionalization left the children fragmented and vulnerable. This unstable upbringing deeply influenced Malcolm's later worldview and his drive to fight systemic oppression. Early struggles and criminal life. As a young man, Malcolm moved between foster homes and struggled to find stability. By his teenage years, he became involved in petty crime in Boston and New York City. He earned a reputation as a hustler, gambler, and drug dealer. During this period, he adopted the nickname Detroit Red because of his red hair, which he inherited from his Scottish ancestry. In 1946, at age 21, he was arrested for burglary and sentenced to prison for 10 years. This period of incarceration marked a turning point in his life, as it became the foundation for his transformation into a political and religious leader. Conversion to Islam and the Nation of Islam. While in prison, Malcolm X educated himself rigorously, reading extensively on history, philosophy, religion, and social issues. He also became deeply influenced by the teachings of the Nation of Islam, NOI, a religious movement advocating for black empowerment and the establishment of a separate black community. By corresponding with Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the NOI, Malcolm converted to Islam and adopted the surname X to signify the loss of his African ancestral name due to slavery. The X symbolized his rejection of his slave surname and his connection to his roots. After his release in 1952, he became a devoted minister and national spokesperson for the Nation of Islam, gaining fame for his eloquence, charisma, and uncompromising stance against racial injustice. Advocacy and leadership. Malcolm X's speeches and writings emphasized black pride, self-determination, and the need for African Americans to defend themselves by any means necessary. He rejected the integrationist approach advocated by leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., advocating instead for self-reliance and separation from white society. Under his leadership, membership in the Nation of Islam grew significantly, and he became a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. His ability to articulate the frustrations and anger of African Americans made him both respected and feared, and he became a powerful voice in challenging systemic racism in the United States. Break with the Nation of Islam. By 1964, Malcolm X grew increasingly disillusioned with the Nation of Islam due to internal conflicts and Elijah Muhammad's personal misconduct. He left the organization and founded the Muslim Mosque, Inc., and later the Organization of Afro-American Unity, aiming to create a more inclusive movement for civil rights and human rights. During this period, he undertook a pilgrimage to Mecca, where he experienced a profound transformation in his understanding of race. He witnessed Muslims of all ethnicities interacting as equals, which led him to embrace a more universal human rights approach, advocating racial unity and cooperation. Later activism. Upon returning to the United States, Malcolm X's views had evolved to incorporate a global perspective on racial oppression. He began advocating for African Americans to fight for their rights internationally, linking their struggle to anti-colonial movements in Africa and Asia. He criticized both the systemic racism in America and the complacency of moderate civil rights leaders. His speeches became more inclusive, calling for justice and equality for all oppressed people, though he never abandoned his core belief in the importance of black empowerment. Assassination and legacy. Malcolm X's growing influence and outspoken criticism made him a target for both political opponents and extremists within the Nation of Islam. On February 21, 1965, he was assassinated while speaking at the Audubon Ballroom in New York City. 3 members of the Nation of Islam were later convicted for his murder. Despite his untimely death at age 39, Malcolm X left an enduring legacy as a revolutionary figure in the struggle for racial justice. His autobiography, CO written with Alex Haley, remains a seminal work, inspiring generations of activists and thinkers. Malcolm X's life demonstrated the power of personal transformation, intellectual rigor, and fearless advocacy against injustice. Influence and recognition. Malcolm X continues to be recognized as one of the most influential African American leaders in history. His approach to civil rights, focusing on self-determination, pride, and direct action, provided an alternative vision to the nonviolent strategies of other leaders. Schools, cultural centers, and institutions have been named after him, and his speeches are studied worldwide for their rhetorical power and moral urgency. Malcolm X's life story exemplifies the journey from hardship to empowerment and remains a touchstone for discussions on race, equality, and human dignity.